let's say 100, 200 times over. And I could write it no problem, and just, whiz right through it. But then if I have to, think about how it's spelled, I'm gonna get it wrong. Or I'll just, spell it wrong, or it'll take me a while. But, if I was typing at my computer, I could just go 2 seconds. Done.
Microsoft Word.
Even without spell check.
I mean, I think the idea behind that is that they notice that all the good spellers use similar strategy. And I'm a good speller in Russian, and I talk to other good spellers, and they all do the same thing. In order to spell, you write it down or type it down and look at the word and see if it looks right or not. It's hard for me sometimes, like if someone tells me how to spell it, I cannot really see it all in my mind. I have to write it down and okay, that doesn't look right.
Okay, cool. So it's still a visual strategy.
It's visual, absolutely.
But you just can't see it that clearly in your mind's eye, so you got to represent
Well, most people are like that. You need to really write it down.
Most people are like that because I said so.
I talk to other people.
I'm not sure. It's an interesting thing. Just as an aside, you might be right, and I have found that many people who have found something true for themselves expect that it is always true for other people too. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So it's an error to assume that it is, even if you talk to a few people.
I would say that
It might be a biased.
Might be, but I noticed that many times people are sure without doing it.
Yeah.
But when they are unsure, the next step would be to write it down and actually look at it.
Good. Excellent.
But
Yes.
Francisco just said his fingers knew how if he was
Yes.
touching.
I know.
That was pretty interesting.
That is pretty interesting.
I would say an unconscious thing. Like I could, there are
Yeah.
spellings that consciously I'm not aware I could make, but
So how do you spell Albuquerque?
I have no clue. I know
Try to
there's
type-
isn't
try to
there
type
like
it
a
out.
Q in there and a U.
What if
So-
he touched?
Are you a touch typer?
Yes.
Okay, so
Like I need
What did you ask him?
is he a touch typer?
Oh.
Do you need a keyboard?
I need to see it though. Like I have to have it
You need to see it
on the screen. Like I can type it.
on the
but
screen. It's complicated.
He means
Uh,
computer
okay.
on.
I know.
Before we go through this, I'll admit though, for the word Albuquerque, I have no clue how to spell it.
Alright.
Regardless, of what medium I use, it's definitely a spell check word for me.
Okay. Good. So
Sorry.
I did get that.
But I have a question. Are really exceptional spellers faster readers?
Oh, I don't know.
Because
No.
I can spell really well, and oftentimes I'm really slow at reading.
What's really interesting to me is, so I've knowing this spelling strategy, I've watched spelling bees. You ever watch those things on TV? Okay, I guess. But they have these spelling bees that are sometimes televised, and you can watch it on TV.
What grades are they?
Those are garbage.
Any?
Teens,
Okay.
usually they're kids, like spelling bee, national spelling bee championship. There's probably different age groups. I'm not sure how it's run exactly, but they're kids. But they've got a strategy for doing it. They get up and they say, somebody says, Albuquerque. Could you use that in a sentence, please? The train went to Albuquerque. Source of where it came from. It's a word from the Mexican American. So they have this. They're preparing it down because there are, I guess, different rules. If it's a Russian word, there's different rules. If it's a Mexican word, there's different rules. So they want to know what they've got.
Right. That's different. That's not how.
I know.
Right.
I know. So I'm just saying that these guys who are, the best spellers, perhaps, have a particular strategy for doing it. And it's not, strictly speaking,
Well, because they don't know this word.
perhaps. They've often, many of these kids studied their ass off for years as well,
Yeah.
memorizing the dictionaries.
Because, one thing I can add, as a good speller is in Russian, is that my spelling goes up when I read a lot, and it starts going down when I read less.
Yeah.
So the more I see the words,
And it's also true that whoever it was, I forgot already, asked if they're faster readers. Was that you?
That was
Yeah.
me.
I think that's
Um,
the first.
I'm
Doesn't. doesn't, it's a different strategy.
It's a different
Different
strategy. I
Now,
just
in
wonder,
fact, Robert Tilth is an example who made up this thing, or at least codified or whatever, discovered it, taught it to billions of people, is a great speller when he's editing. When he's writing a book, he doesn't think about it, he's just putting it down. He's got to go back later as with his editor hat on and correct his own spelling, unless of course he's using a new version of Microsoft Word. But that's different.
but what makes a fast, like,
I don't know, we're talking about something else.
okay.
Come here. How many people know how to spell Albuquerque? Anybody? Do you? You sure? Positive.
Positive.
How do you spell it?
Albuquerque.
Somebody's shaking your head up here. Now, isn't that interesting? He's sure. I asked him twice. He said, yes, I'm sure. He was congruent about that, and yet he spelled it wrong. Although, there are a couple variations. The accepted now on the maps way of spelling it is not the way you just spell it. Unless it's Canadian. Maybe there's a Canada. Is there an Albuquerque in Canada?
No.
No.
It's
You should've said
exactly
yes.
right. ALBERQUE. No.
So, isn't that interesting? I just want to point out that sometimes people can be absolutely sure about things and still be wrong. You know? It's
No, I won't.
politically, as an example, people can be absolutely sure about things. They can be like spewing venom at the thought of anybody opposing my viewpoint. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but they can still be wrong about their viewpoint. That's just an aside.
They gave him win the presidency.
Yeah, man, it's true.
Oh, I must have done
What'd you just do?
that. I just wrote it.
You just wrote it and saw it. Interesting. How do you spell it now?
ALBURQUE. No.
You still wrote it.
Closer though.
Closer.
How do you spell it?
We'll get to it in a minute. Okay, so the way this process works, just so you know, just as a quick little overview, is you chunk. Yeah, still here.
You mean?
I did. Is that okay? You mind standing there for a second?
It's fine.
Is you take the word and you find out the way that it is properly spelled. So you start off knowing how it is actually spelled. So you look it up in the dictionary. By the way, this always used to piss me off when I was a kid. I didn't ever use that term when I was a kid, but it did nevertheless frustrate me. Because if I didn't know how to spell a word, my dad would say, well, look it up. How the heck am I supposed to look it up if I don't know how it's spelled? Could you give me a hint, please? You know, just start from the alphabet. And Milton Erickson, by the way, was dyslexic. One of his many challenges that he grew up with was dyslexic, so he didn't know how to spell either. So if he wanted to look up a word, he started at the beginning and went through the alphabet. You know, if it was, God forbid, it was like an X word or something. It would take him for a week to look something up. But I had a similar upbringing. Look it up, okay. So, but the way you start off is you find out how it is spelled. So you ask somebody who knows and maybe look it up, and once you get a good clue as to what it's spelled. So you find out how it actually is spelled. And then you chunk it. Not necessarily the way you think it should be chunked. In other words, the way that somebody told you it should be chunked, and the way that it's chunked in a dictionary. We want you to chunk it in 2 or 3, at the absolute most, 4 letters. So if a particular syllable, it would be 5 letters, chunk it in 2 and 3. So 4 is the most. You want small chunks, small chunks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be at the syllables, it doesn't have to be, it could be this kind of thing. You could chunk it in places where it doesn't seem to make sense phonetically, right? But chunk it into small bits. And then what you do is you color it. So you have the first chunk a particular color, second chunk a particular color, third chunk a particular color. You could use the same colors alternating, or you could use different colors. This could be something like, puce, as an example. Very popular color. But it could be any number of colors. And then what you do is you put it up to your left. So why? So your eyes are going to be going up to the left when you look at it. So you want it to be in a place where you can actually be looking at it up to your left. And you look at this first chunk, and you get it